Hello, nerds. It's your favorite duo, Marc and Renee, and this week we're diving into a topic that's near and dear to both of our hearts. Like, right, Marc? Like logistics. Yeah. We both love logistics, and we learned it at the same time in the same place, so yay! That's right. You know, the art of getting stuff from point A to point B, but trust us, it's way cooler than it sounds. We're talking everything from steam-powered trains to drone deliveries. It's like a roller coaster of technology and history, and we're here for it. So buckle up, because we're going to take you on a time-traveling ride through the last 200 years of logistics history. You won't believe how far we've come. Now, before we go off into the 1800s, I just want to say, technically speaking, the Egyptians, when they were building the pyramids, were using logistics. I don't know how you build the pyramids without thinking about a lot of stuff, right? Like
totally right. Well,
how you got those giant heads down to Easter Island. I mean, there was crazy stuff going on in the ancient world, right?
Stonehenge, you know, that rock comes from hundreds of miles away, right? Like they had to. What did they do? They had to float it, you know, and
down canals, yes, or across the ocean, or down the coast. Yes,
I don't know.
Yeah, crazy stuff. But we're going to pick it up in the 1800s with the birth of logistics in the modern era, and this is the steam-powered era. So let's kick things off in the 1800s. Imagine this. It's the 19th century, and the Industrial Revolution is in full swings. Factories are popping up, steam engines are roaring, and goods need to be moved faster than ever. Enter the steam engine. And the game changer here is the railroad, because most things the railroad helped change. I'm just going to come to admit it, like trains are important.
Trains are important.
Right? Before trains, transporting goods was a pain. Literally, you had to rely on slow, cumbersome horse-drawn carts. But once the steam locomotive rolls in, it's like the first ever logistics superpower. Everything changes. Railroads become the backbone of transportation. That's when we see the birth of mass logistics, the idea that getting raw materials to factories and finished goods to the market much faster and on a larger scale than ever before. I mean, before it was, you went to a tailor, you picked something you want from stuff they made it for you and put it in a brown, paper and wrapped it up real good, and some random kid who was working for a living at 7 would bring it to your house. And that's how it used to work, right? That's how you transferred goods in the 1800s.
We come back to trains a lot. I think this is the third time we've talked about trains. So I think it's super important, really critical. Industrial Revolution, it's that era that proves that humans will inhale coal dust if it saves 30 minutes, right? And these machines that we're building, they just, become faster and faster to be able to move goods back and forth across the country or across counties or across states or even across oceans for steam-powered boats, which we'll come to shortly. But that mechanism, essentially, that faster transportation means that the world shrinks in a way. And travel went from, see you in 3 weeks to see you Tuesday. Compress time and you compress the markets. Logistics stops being a chore and becomes actual infrastructure. And for us, this sort of technology nostalgia, railroads in particular, are this really foundational component of, I guess, remembered history for us, right? It's something that it's not so far removed like the pyramids or Stonehenge, but it's at least close enough that we understand it and we can touch it.
And we can understand still sit on a freeway somewhere, right, next to the train tracks and see a bunch of double-decker containers go by you for, 20 minutes thinking it's on its way to the East Coast, right, because it came in through the port of Los Angeles. It's definitely going somewhere else, right? It's one of the busiest ports we have. It's definitely on its way somewhere. And rail is still the cheapest, cleanest, and fastest way to get things from one point to still today. Even though we in America don't have speed trains, it's still the fastest way of getting things places. So now I get it. And I don't think the West would have been settled without it, right? Without the Transcontinental Railroad, there's no way to get building materials across the country. right?
Right.
There was no way to get people to live those places if they couldn't get there
That's
in
right.
some way other than a covered wagon, because that doesn't turn out too well too often, right? It was reliable. It ran on a schedule. Like, yeah, all of that was great. And I'll go one more to say that it's just our reliance on the technology of the day, right? Like it is the one thing we talk about over and over and over again is that when the technology is there, we take advantage of it for commerce, period.
That's right. That's right.
Period.
Well, we increase the behaviors of the people don't change, right? They want their stuff, they want their food, they wanna, exploit people.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
the behaviors don't change, but the speed, scope, reach is what essentially changes. I think okay, let's see, we've talked about Barnum took advantage of trains.
Yep.
We talked about Sears took advantage of trains.
Yep.
We talked about bubbles and bursting. Gosh, we talked about the Industrial Revolution with Chris and the ethics. I mean,
Yes.
this is yeah, yeah.
That
It's
maybe the foundational technology that we still rely on even today, maybe it is railroads, right? Like,
I don't
it's
know. Yeah,
foundational. Like, more th
yeah,
even more than, like, airlines. Like, I've met people on trains that have never been on a plane. They've never gone to an
yeah,
airport. They
true.
don't know anything about it, right?
Well,
Yeah.
in Europe, you can travel all over, by rail and not have to get on the train at
Yeah,
all,
I took a train from
or
Amsterdam
not
to
get on a
Italy.
plane at all. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was
exactly.
great. It went through the mountains. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful train
Well,
ride.
and in France, they're starting to shut down, local, intercountry plane routes.
Smart for them. Why have all
Yeah.
that? I mean, if you really do take the Paris Climate Accord seriously and, it's named after one of your cities, you probably should do something about that, right?
Perhaps, maybe,
And that's a
sort of.
huge amount of CO2. Like, unless you can get a
Yeah.
plane that's as clean as a train, which I don't even know how we would do that. I don't
No,
know.
no,
Anyway, something
not
for
gonna
the
happen.
airline industry to think about.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the world wars, trucks and containerization, because I think this is where it becomes really, really industrialized, right? So it's the Industrial Revolution brings us to the idea that trains are a good way to get materials, raw goods back and forth and into the hands of consumers and everything else. Like that's the beginning of it. But if we fast forward to the early 1900s, we got trucks rolling in. The motor vehicle is here to save the day. And you know what? Honestly, we need to talk about that sometime. Like the introduction of the car. You can't imagine how much horse crap there used to be on the roads just because
Right.
the mode of transportation for everything was an animal that ate and then defecated. So, like, just that amount of they said in New York City, the fly situation was so bad, people would get diseases just being bitten by the flies. Like, it was a
Yeah.
dangerous place and the horses weren't helping. So it's the motor vehicle comes to save the day, and railroads don't have the monopoly anymore. Trucks make local
Yeah.
delivery faster and more flexible. You're no longer at the mercy of the train schedule. It's a new era. World War I and World War II. Okay, they were massive turning points in logistics. I mean, think about it. You got factories churning out tanks, airplanes, and ammunition. You can't afford to sit around and wait for a horse-drawn carriage to show up. But during both wars, logistics operations had to be fast, efficient, and massive. The military developed tons of new techniques like mass production, supply chain management strategies, and yes, airplanes for moving goods. The idea of just-in-time delivery, that was born out of wartime innovation. And if you thought things couldn't get any more revolutionary, we get to containerization. In the 1950s, a guy named Malcolm McLean, can you believe I bothered to look it up, decides that we need a better way to ship goods. So he invented the shipping container. The stuff people make tiny houses out of. It's standardized, it's stackable, and it's so efficient that it changes global trade forever. No more unloading cargo piece by piece. We just stack them and go. But before we talk about the container, I do want to talk about like the logistics of world wars, because I think that's where we get good at it. We get
It
really
is
good
pretty
at it.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they talk about, who's the famous general that said that logistics wins wars, right? I'll have to look that up, put in the show notes. But the military becomes a logistics all of them are logistics organizations, supply chain management,
Yeah, because if you
delivery.
could get them the ammo, you could get them the food, and that you could get them more people, and you could do that as
Yeah,
more efficiently than the enemy, then you win. You win.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or you're able to cut off supply chain for the enemy, then you have an advantage. I think that this is conceptually, I think people understand this, but the scale and magnitude, particularly in World War II, when you think about how much ammunition, equipment, people, and then the fuel to move those people, and the food to feed those people, and the bullets, for guns and uniforms and rubber and tires and metal. I mean, to move that much stuff, requires a complete overhaul of logistics theory and logistics, practice overnight. If you look at last mile delivery prior to World War II versus, right kind of at the beginning of the European theater and World War II, it's night and day. It's a complete change in how delivery happens.
What I take away from World War II usually is pretty astounding. Like, you get into the Eastern European countries and they're still really heavy in horses. Like heavy in horses. There's not a lot of mechanical anything going on there. And even
Yeah.
in Germany, still a lot of horses, like pulling stuff
Still a
around.
lot of horses.
Yeah, and I think you see the video and you'll see, the Nazis in their Mercedes Benzes, and you think, oh, it's an era of cars. No, dude, it was not an era
No.
of cars. I know that's what we see in the newsreels, but it was not an era of cars. They
Yeah.
really did have to figure that stuff out. And yeah, it was really up to, I remember, like, the thing that strikes me most about World War II is the Allies being like, there's no chance that Germany would squander its logistics and its railroads for the simple fact of killing people. Like like the concept that you would use a railroad to move people from anywhere else in Europe to Auschwitz, like
Yeah.
you would use the rails for that they're so valuable as part of the infrastructure to winning a war that you would do that with it. Like, that was beyond our comprehension to understand that. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, of course you wouldn't do that. That has to be a rumor. Dude, it wasn't. They had a mission and that mission was different than ours, right? We would have
Yeah.
wanted those rails to, move more stuff to the front line. They had really kind of given up on that. They owned so much of it. What did they care, right? So yeah,
Well,
so let's
and
talk about how the container ship,
Yeah.
the containers changed everything. Because up until then, it was like on the Titanic. Remember, they had a car on the Titanic. They were shipping it from one place to another, so it was just sitting in the cargo hull. Like, that stuff ended. Like, when we ship cars now, like, every once in a while on like Instagram or something, I'll see somebody going through like the North Atlantic with those oceans, like when they get bad storms there, and you'll see a container ship tip sideways and you'll see all these containers just roll off the ship, and you're like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
wonder who's not getting a car, right? Like, I wonder whose car is now at the bottom of the North Atlantic.
So,
Yeah.
in the money episode, we talked about the most important invention ever, which was
The
double
credit
entry
card.
bookkeep,
What was
double
it?
entry bookkeeping,
Yeah.
double entry
Right. The
bookkeep.
greatest. I still think it's a sewing machine, but go ahead.
As a shipping container might be the best, or it could be a close runner up to double entry bookkeeping. Okay, so I've got lots of fun facts about shipping containers. Do you want some fun facts?
Mhm.
Ready? Okay. All right.
Definitely.
Okay. So the shipping container eliminated 93% of the cost of loading a ship. So before the shipping container, the cost was about $5.86 per ton, and it dropped it to 16 cents a ton.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? That's like,
AI is going
that's
to do that
orders.
to entry level jobs.
Stop. We'll talk about AI later. Yeah. Container port can turn around a ship 30 times faster in the break bulk era. So I don't know. We didn't talk about this, but this is what cargo was called before containers: break bulk, 30 times faster. So a ship would take about a week to be loaded by hand, and it takes about a few hours to load now. So that's a complete change here. Global shipping shifted from move goods where they are made to make goods where is cheapest. So this is not something we think about a lot now, because it's just de facto the way it is, because it only costs 16 cents a ton to ship something. But now this is the result of the shipping container, the change in where the labor actually happens. And it feels wrong to make something in one country, to then ship it across the ocean to another country, to then ship it to a third country to then sell it. And you're talking vast ocean distances. But in actuality, that is the cheapest when you consider labor costs and the cost of shipping. So that's a crazy change here.
Well, and then I guess the automotive industry has decided you build where you
Yeah.
sell, right? So
Yeah.
if it sells in North America, interestingly enough, not a lot of that is built in the United States. So assembly in the
Right.
United States doesn't happen like it happens in Canada and it happens in
Right.
Mexico, and then they ship into the U.S. The parts
Exactly.
are coming from China. What's really being done in the U.S. is the engineering and the design. Everything
Right.
else is being handled somewhere else in order to sell it to a U.S. customer. So yeah, we don't even build cars really anymore. We like a handful of places might still do. Toyota has a couple factories. Ford has a couple
Honda
factories.
does. Yeah.
Honda has some, but it's because they're
Ohio.
building. But they're building where they're selling, right? It's just
Yes.
it's a Japanese manufacturer in the United States. Hyundai.
That's right.
It's a Korean manufacturer in the United States.
That's
It
right.
has nothing to do with
Yeah.
anything other than that's how we build.
Yeah. The first shipping container voyage in 1956 with McLean, he used an converted oil tanker. So get this, he buys an old oil tanker. He welded frames onto it and stacked 58 containers on the deck. So that voyage saved enough money that the entire shipping industry panicked and immediately copied him. So
wow. They didn't.
Yeah.
At least he didn't put him on a train and send him somewhere, right? That's what he could have done. He could have been found dead in his own trunk, but no, they just changed.
Yeah. So that overnight change, okay, so containers, as you said, normalized, standardized, stackable, right? They're all the same size. So the containers standardize everything, not just the ship sizes, but ports, cranes, trucks, railroad cars, get this, warehouses, storage yards, right? Like everything gets derived in the supply chain from that one shape of the container. Containers are so durable that many end up as buildings, right? Some people have container houses. I have a shipping container next to my house here. It's right,
I'm going to go put a triple-decker one on your land in Arkansas. So I'm going to live there by the lake.
That's fine. That's fine. Let's see. Most lost containers don't sink. I thought that was really interesting.
What, they just
actually float. Yeah, they float for weeks just below the surface, invisible but deadly to other ships in the shipping lanes. And there's a whole GPS tracking system built around that problem, which I thought was like really, really
so your car is out there floating in salt water for like a week and a half while they figure out where it is. What do they do? Go fish it back out? Do they go get it?
If it's viable, yeah. If it's viable,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Let's see. Yeah, the standard size, 20 foot and 40 foot, is called a TEU, 20-foot equivalent unit. Yeah, so like we had rack units, 1 rack unit, 42 rack units.
Right.
This is, the TEU, the 20-foot equivalent unit. So there you go.
And so
there's some fun facts.
When they sell the container, do they sell it fractionally? Can I put stuff like, could there be 10 of us in a container and we're all renting one part of that container for the shipping? Oh, that's why it's so cheap.
Yeah, no, it's actually, logistics companies actually sell, by that TEU, and you can buy fractional around that. So have you ever done this when you've moved houses and you bought a container and you fill it a certain amount and then it goes off somewhere? You've not done that?
No.
Yeah, that's
pack
how
up a
that works.
U-Haul, and although I did hire a bunch of Russian guys the last time, I was convinced they were going to steal it all. Because I'm harassed by Russians. Why wouldn't they steal all my stuff?
You hired Victor with a K? What are you doing?
Sam did.
Victor no!
With a K. And you know what? Like they were like 3 hours late, and he's starting to think maybe they did steal it. I'm like, it is the Russian mob. Like maybe we really did get into the wrong business here. All right, let's talk about
the shipping. So just one last thing: the shipping containers. It's the closest thing to perfect technology. A rectangle that solves globalization. Chaos reigned before that in the ports. Every crate was a different size. Dock workers had hernias. McLean shows up and says, "What if boxes?" Suddenly, the world runs on Lego stack and ship. It just dropped prices so fast just because the metal box is consistent. So
it was a pretty good invention. We're going to give McLean A good
He
one.
gets
It's
he
pretty
gets
good.
up on the it's pretty good. I mean, it's no double entry bookkeeping, but
Right, right.
it's
You're a
pretty
huge
good.
fan of that, but no, this is pretty good though. It did change everything. There's not many
Yeah.
things in life that would changed everything, but that kind
Vulcanized
of
rubber.
yeah,
We'll
that
have to talk
too.
about vulcanized rubber at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the late 20th century where everything starts going global. Globalization kicks into high gear, and suddenly we're not just shipping goods across the US or Europe. We're talking the world. And for logistics, that means big changes. It's the rise of computers. In the 80s and 90s, saw computers and GPS transform how we track goods, optimize routes, manage inventories. Remember that scene in Back to the Future Part 2 where they talk about self-driving cars? Yeah, that idea wasn't too far off. GPS and tech are setting the stage for it. And speaking of tech, the internet is the next big wave. As e-commerce explodes in the late 90s, it creates this huge demand for faster, more reliable delivery systems. Amazon, anyone? It's not just about books anymore, right? People want everything, and logistics companies have to figure out how to get it to them and fast.
So Renee, I used to work for a .com. Gee,
Vaguely remember that.
I resemble that remark. I mean, this is where you and I like learn all about pick and ship and fulfillment and logistics.
In the
You've
Cubiscan.
not and the Cubiscan. Oh, I love the Cubiscan. You've not lived until a conveyor belt sends a spatula on a cross country journey because it misread a barcode. So I think the the real cool thing about this was that we were in a very special time where there was this transition from you had to have your own warehouse and your own fulfillment, your own logistics to drop ship capability, which was not quite it was starting to emerge, but it wasn't quite there. And that shift meant that there was a difference in how you manage peak, right? We always lived in peak Christmas time, and I know you'll
Mhm.
you'll talk about your favorite Christmas peak stories, but there's other peak sorts of events. Mother's Day,
Yeah.
Valentine's Day, when Oprah gets on the television and talks about,
Her
some
favorite
magical
cookware.
product, right, or whatever. Like that sort of stuff changes how, e-commerce sites have to manage, their algorithms. And that's a complete shift from what we had in the previous century, which was like, it's in stock, it's out of stock. It's out of stock, I order more. And this is a different kind of mechanism so that the logistics can be more efficient and route, based on predictive analytics and, not just stock on hand, but stock in other warehouses that are managed by other players in other states or other countries or whatever. It's a completely different mindset in the late 90s.
So what I remember most about that transitional period was like most of what we had in the .com because we sold cookware and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff we had in the warehouse, right? So
In the warehouse.
the warehouse we would have to take it all in. And what the software was incredible. What the software was doing was we would take it to the Cubiscan, and the Cubiscan would scan the box, and it would say, here's how big it is. And then you'd say, inside this box are 12 of these things, and you would scan those, and it would say, okay, so in overflow, it's taking that box and putting it somewhere where it can put it. Those little boxes in pick are going to a different part of the warehouse where people are going to pick it, right? So, like, those two things are separate, and the software is keeping track of when the last one gets picked off the shelf and picking, somebody is already bringing over the new one because the software told them what to do that day. Like, that's
Yeah.
how, and everything was managed by barcodes, right? So at Christmas time, when people like you and me ended up in the warehouse doing picking for orders, the most, like, you'd have an order and it would take you, like, somebody ordered 10 things. It would take you on a walk around the pick, part of the warehouse where you were picking and putting the order together with your little cart. You would actually go around and pick it, scan it, pick it, scan it, pick it, scan it. When the scanner beeped twice, you were done. You took that, you put it on a conveyor belt, it went to somebody else to package it. They would put they'd
Yeah.
scan the barcode, it would print out a shipping label, it would put on that, and it would go sit in a box waiting for UPS to come get it. It's why we did it in Rancho Cucamonga, because there was a UPS facility
Yeah.
right there.
Well, and remember the Cubiscan could figure out if it was cheaper to run it through to UPS or
Yes,
postal.
because it was looking at tables of
Yeah,
cost, right? And how fast you wanted it and everything else. And this is
yeah,
at a time when we used to pay for shipping. Like every person who bought paid $9.99 for shipping. It wasn't,
yeah,
like Prime wasn't a thing then. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, that's what I remember. Like when I think back about like my bout with logistics, it was how smart that software already was in like
yeah,
1999. It was already
yeah,
really smart. I can't imagine how different it is today with robotics and with algorithms and predictive analytics and everything else. I mean, if you're somebody like Marshall's and you buy a bunch of out of season stuff, wouldn't you want to know which of your stores you can sell which sizes in? Because I often think like I'll go to one store and I'll never find my size, but I'll go to a different store and I'll find nothing but my size. I'm like, oh, this is where the fat girls shop. I should shop here because clearly they move this merchandise in a way where other stores don't. But as mean as that might sound, it is a logistics thing to sell
yeah.
your
It's a
stuff,
logistics thing.
right? Like if
Yeah,
you have a lot of people who are an average size 14, well, then go sell it there. Why are you bringing it to Manhattan Beach where they work really hard not to be a 14? Like, why would you even bother, right? So like that was my thing. And I think back on those days and I think how much I learned because I had a warehouse in my environment, and then how much I respect places like Amazon for sorting that out and getting better and better and better at it until they're so good at it you can order same day. Like that to me is borderline crazy.
I just remember the Solaris machine that was there, and
It was the size of a
at the
small
where.
refrigerator. It was
Yeah, yeah,
gigantic. Yeah.
yeah,
And I knew nothing
and
about it. Dana ran the whole thing herself.
yeah,
I knew
nobody
nothing
nobody would
about
touch
it.
it. Yeah, and yeah, someone would be wrong. Mark, don't touch that.
Yeah,
Don't touch it.
you are not qualified. You are not wrong. I agree. I am not qualified. I'm going to go work on my stupid web servers. I'm happier there anyway.
Click, click, click. Oh, I got to reboot the servers again.
Yeah. All right,
Time,
everybody. It's going to be a minute. Yeah. All of that, right?
time for the nightly reboot.
Don't make
Yeah,
fun. I miss the B-sod. The time we come into it, e-commerce, automation, and sustainability. So let's fast forward to the 2000s. I get married and e-commerce. The boom is in full swing. We're not just ordering books anymore. We're buying groceries, gadgets, toys, and everything in between. And the logistic companies are scrambling to keep up with next day or even same day delivery. Robots and AI start entering the scene. You know, those cool warehouse robots? They've been around for a while now and they help
yeah,
move stuff around the warehouses at lightning speed. And don't forget drones and autonomous vehicles. We're talking about the future of delivery, flying drones, dropping off packages in our front yard. Seriously, how sci-fi is that? And it's happening. And while all this innovation is happening, logistic companies are also realizing the need for sustainability. We're seeing more eco-friendly transport options like electric trucks and greener packaging, all to reduce the environmental impact of our ever-growing demand for goods. And I would say like, yeah, right. Like right now, right now, Tesla's having a little bit of a tough time getting like Anheuser-Busch to go all in on their autonomous rigs. But right now, there's a 1 mile like road that goes from the brewery, the Busch Brewery,
yeah,
Anheuser-Busch, down to where they stage it to ship it. So to the rail
yeah.
lines, essentially, right? But it's 1 mile and it's a private road. So what's better than autonomous vehicles for that, except maybe a train? Like, yeah, like put the autonomous vehicle
Sure,
on the road. Well, what they realized was if you were packing that thing up with potato chips, it could do that trip 6 times before it needed charged.
sure.
But as soon as you put beer in it, it gets there, but it can't get back because of the torque it needs to get there. So they have to recharge it before they can send it back to get more stuff. And they
Oof.
started to realize this might not be like the right approach because we can't load the truck. The trucks are going 2/3 full, 1/3 full because it's too much battery power to get them there. They're just too
Yeah,
heavy, right? And so even in this moment of incredible ability to move things around, we still have challenges we haven't quite sorted out.
yeah. Well, I mean, the power density of diesel is quite high versus a battery, right? I mean,
But you also have a
so,
bunch of companies who are part of logistics that have now, net zero pledges, and they're
yep.
part of signed onto the Paris Climate Accords. They're talking about how to reduce the carbon footprint of the delivery. And
Okay.
that's everybody. That's UPS, that's FedEx, that's everybody.
Yes. Okay. Everybody has a like every logistics company and probably everybody that deals with logistics has a net zero pledge. But half of them read like their sort of horoscopes, right? They're inspirational and vague. The serious ones are making real changes, which is good, but most of them are not. The this and it's not just, we'll build better equipment, but it's optimizing routes. Yes, electric fleets, better packaging, that packaging that doesn't look like it survived a bar fight. And logistics actually saving money. Now, this is a conceptually, logistics has always been about saving money,
Yeah.
right? But in this scenario, the optimization only gets you so far. And so now you have to change your mechanisms, change your equipment, change the modes of transportation. I've got a bunch of facts for net zero and shipping logistics, though. This is a fun fact episode for me. I went and
But
looked at
before
all
you
sorts
get
of
to your
stuff.
fun facts, let me just remind
All right.
everyone that during COVID, everybody was like big on like, what are we going to do to differentiate ourselves in this black
Yeah.
hole that we're all in? One of the things that was happening, because I covered sustainability for Forrester for a year, like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And it started during COVID. But what you would find out is I would get calls from clients and they would be like, all right, Renee, we said we would be net zero by 2040. Now what do we do? It's like, oh, I don't know. Shouldn't you thought about that before you called me? Like, why am I the one having to figure this out? Like, why did you say it out loud? We had to say something. You didn't have to say anything. Nobody asked you to say anything. You
Yeah,
should
yeah,
have
yeah.
figured out, where am I today? Where do I have to be in order to meet my 2040 requirements? And what can I do first that would give me enough running room to deal with all the other stuff that's going to come after? Because it just gets harder and harder and harder. There's stuff you can do at the
Yeah.
beginning. Quit traveling as an organization. Start doing way more, video conferencing. Oh,
Yeah.
and on your video conferencing, only do that once in a while. A video call is 90 times dirtier than a phone call. Stop it. Just stop doing them. Start
Really?
doing, yes, video, like just from
Wow.
a carbon footprint. This is terrible what we're doing right here.
Well, this is
Terrible.
terrible what we're doing.
But we have
Well,
38,000 listeners, so I don't really care. See how that
but
works?
okay. But so, yeah. But like the alternative is I get on a plane
Right?
and
Yes. Yes.
yeah. And
Yeah.
as much as I would love to reach out and give you a hug, like,
Well,
I
that doesn't
mean,
make any sense either, right? Because the carbon
yeah.
footprint of that is crazy. That's why you see large
So you're
research
never going to
firms.
come visit now?
Yeah,
No?
well, no, I'm
Oh,
coming
that
to
makes me
visit. That's
sad.
vacation.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I would say that, like, yeah, but that's how the big firms did it. That's how, like, the research
Yeah, yeah,
firms and the consulting firms, they were just like, we're not traveling
yeah.
anymore. That's too much of a scope 3 problem for us. Or scope 2
Sure.
problem for us. We're
Scope
done. We're
2.
out. We're not doing it. And
Well,
you're like,
think
okay,
about a
well,
giant think about a giant-sized global bank, hundreds of thousands of employees. You
yeah.
say and when I worked at HSBC, the bulk of my time at HSBC, no travel because of COVID, because
Mm,
of COVID, and that was a huge boon to my budget.
yeah.
Because, you basically budget a certain percent, or a certain amount per person per year, your travel. When I have an organization of 6,000 people globally, engineers all over the world, and, it's like you figure how much, per person traveling, it was a sizable budget.
Yeah.
And basically that gets returned back to me and, it got eaten up with other things, but like that was a huge, huge save. So thousands of employees not traveling is a financial save, but it's also an environmental save.
Yeah. So anyway, go ahead
Okay.
and give
Fun
me the
facts.
facts.
Fun
Fun
facts.
facts.
All right. Net zero shipping and logistics. All right. Shipping today produces about 3% of global CO2. That's roughly the same size as the entire aviation industry or a country the size of Germany. So one
Wow.
giant floating Germany.
Wow.
That's a lot. 3% though, like I think that's less than I expected.
I would expected it to be like 9. To hear it's only
I
3
would have
is,
expected to, yeah. But you think about it, like that's pretty efficient. It's
yep.
pretty efficient. If shipping were a country, it would be the world's 6th largest emitter. Have every country except China, the US, India, Russia, and Japan. So yeah, a country entirely of containers and paperwork.
Wow.
The biggest ships are already 80 times more efficient per ton than trucks. So 80 times more efficient than trucks. Large container ships burn a lot of fuel, but per ton mile, they're ridiculously efficient. And we talked about that cost, earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, okay. The world's first carbon neutral container ship launched in 2023. It
What?
runs, yeah, it runs on green methanol, which sounds like a Breaking Bad pilot, but but it's actually a low carbon fuel made from renewable sources and captured CO2. So I'll have to do more research on green methanol because anytime somebody says like, clean coal or
Yeah, or
green
clean
something,
methanol. Like,
yeah,
just
it
clean
sounds,
diesel. Like you're all lying.
yeah, but methanol, I mean methanol, as long as I have a thing against food for fuel. I don't like, you know, producing crops to then turn them into fuel. So as long as methanol is not being, this green methanol isn't like actually coming from, food stocks, then I guess I'm okay. Well, you've probably seen this. Wind power is back. Modern cargo ships are testing giant carbon fiber sails and rotor sails that cut fuel use up to 20%. It's the first time since the 1800s that shipping ships look like they go back to swashbuckling, right? Big old,
It's kind of cool.
sails.
It's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. And then, you know what? Of course, when you see this on the interwebs or whatever, some idiot goes, "Oh, and then they'll post a picture of like an actual three-masted sailor or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, come on now.
That's not what anyone's talking about. And like you would think you could like there could be tons of ways to generate electricity on a boat. Like you the
Yeah.
kinetic energy of the ocean has to help somehow,
Yes.
right? Like there's
Yeah.
got to be 1,000 ways to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Maersk, Maersk, who's the biggest in the shipping world, has committed to net zero by 2040, 20 years ahead of most industries. Let's see. Let's see. Most ports are switching to electric.
Oh,
So that's cool. Oh, where ships idle, the trucks swarm. They have this sort of swarming algorithm let's see, refrigerated containers, sometimes called reefers, are secret energy monsters. A single refrigerated container can use as much electricity as 20 homes. So,
ooh.
yeah. So this actually turns out to be one of the biggest challenges in the whole shipping industry is decarbonizing the reefers. Let's see.
So I worked for
Yeah.
somebody who cored ice in the Antarctic, and she said they would put them in containers, put them on a container ship, and make sure that and it was a special container because the container had to keep
Yeah.
the ice cores frozen. And then she said
Yeah.
one day they got there and they opened the container and all the water poured out, and they'd realized no one plugged it in. Like,
Oh,
oh, like
no.
layer one on the OSI. Did you plug it in?
Yeah. Did you plug it
Like,
in?
no one checked
I've
it.
got lots more. I think that let's see. This one I think is really interesting. Slow steaming saves up to 30% of emissions. So just dropping your speed a few knots massively cuts fuel use, and global trade becomes calmer. And everybody breathes easier. So, if you just cut back just a little bit, it can actually
Yeah, dude, but
save
I've
quite
watched
a
a
lot.
lot of Deadliest Catch, and I know they're going the way they're going so that they can beat like the weather. But usually, I don't see anybody being crazy with that stuff. That they're usually just trying to beat waves or weather, right?
I mean, well, yes. When I was in Colorado, we used to live next door to a ship captain. And this is what he did: is he would run these large shipping containers and stuff, and it's incredible how much of it's automated on the ship. Literally, you could run the entire thing by robot if you wanted, and telemetrics and GPS and all of that. So it's quite efficient. I mean, they've driven
So,
out
how long
quite a
before
lot of the.
one captain is in charge of a fleet and he's running it all from his
Yeah,
home office in Colorado?
yeah. I think that's a real possibility. I mean, the issue is pirates, and piracy is a real problem. It's a real thing. Not so much in American waters or European waters, but crossing to get to certain places. Yeah, it's a big deal.
I always feel like it's kind of like a red herring. Like if you really like everybody goes to a safe room, these guys try to get to the place where they think the value is, wherever that is, and then you just turn on the halon and we're all good. Like I don't understand why there isn't a way to suck the oxygen out of the room they're in, knock them out. Like there's 1,000 ways to handle that. I'm not sure why it's still a thing. I don't get it.
I, well, I mean, the bridge. Yeah, I mean, it's you have to be able to take over manually, right? If something bad happens, you can't control it via GPS
Well,
or
yeah, it's
remote satellite or whatever.
and then you had to go when your server hung and you had to call the knock and make them go do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, piracy is an issue. So, let's go to what's next? Tell us what's next.
Oh, here, what's next? All right. So we're going to talk about the 2020s and beyond, the future of logistics, and it's going to be epic. So now as we hit the 2020s, right, logistics is all about digital transformation. I mean, we're seeing Internet of Things, IoT everywhere, from smart warehouses that talk to each other to real-time tracking of shipments. Blockchain technology is making an appearance here, making everything more secure and transparent. After COVID-19, the importance of agile, resilient supply chains became crystal clear. I'd like to say it woke us up after that hurricane hit Puerto Rico and we realized we couldn't get another IV bag to save our lives. Like, that's
Yeah.
where they all came from. They all came from Puerto
Yes.
Rico. Like, that's when things, like, for me, logistics started coming home to roost. It was like, uh-oh, we made the world a tiny place. And when we can't get things, like, to each other, it becomes a real problem. So logistics companies had to adapt fast, and it changed the way we think about just-in-time inventory and global supply chains. The future is about resilience, speed, and customization. That's what's going to kill us in the long run, right? Like, we have become, as a society, we have embraced individuality to a point where it's going to really mess with us in the long run, right? Like what, like I would go back to the idea that I would rather have a data center with all the same hardware than a data center with everybody's hardware, however they wanted it, in whatever color they want, doing whatever they felt like. Like, no, of course not. Of course, that's not how you run anything efficiently. Like, that's not how
It's
anything runs. Yet, everything drives us toward that the individual marketing, individual sales, individual, like, agentic AI that's going to look like me and talk to other stuff. Like, it's crazy, right? So if the future, and it's about resilience, speed, and customization. Last mile delivery is becoming more tech driven, with drones and autonomous vehicles stepping in to help with urban delivery. So who knows, in 10 years, we might just have fully automated AI powered logistics systems just running the world. That'll be fun.
I well, will it be
No,
fun? I don't
it
know.
won't be
No,
fun.
probably not. I you know, yeah, resilience is an obsession in all the different industries that you and I play in. And, logistics is no different. I think it's interesting, the way you said it, this kind of obsession with customization and individualization. And logistics has to be the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It has to, like, in order for it to operate efficiently, it has to operate at scale. It has to, be standardized, right? The shipping container. And that's not, that's not, yeah, it feels a little bit counter. But I think there's new technologies in the mix that help break that a bit, right? Autonomous drones and autonomous, last mile systems, but also things like 3D printing even, where the last mile is no longer a logistical problem, it's a data
Data
problem.
problem. Yeah.
Robots working in warehouses are never gonna get tired, and that means that warehouse operators can scale for speed and, longer use, right? They can run 24/7.
That's what I think is really interesting. So anytime you look at, like, robotics and, like, what we consider the state of the art. So every time we see, like, a humanoid looking robot with hands and fingers, and it can tie a
Yeah,
bow, and it can, like that's what we consider state of the art. But the guys who were working on Tesla's robots,
yeah,
couple of young guys who really tried to explain to their CEO that you can't build robots that look like people. The same things that are happening in the distribution center to people are going to happen to these robots, right? Elbows are going
yeah,
to wear out, knees are going to wear out.
yep, yep.
The balancing of stuff so you don't break it. Like what you're asking of that robot is not going to make that situation, logistics, any easier. It's only going to add to the problem, and we're going to be replacing parts on machines the same way we do on people. You're going to need an elbow replacement. You're going to need a knee replacement, a hip replacement. Like, why do it? And that's when he said to the CEO, whose name I won't mention, like, hey, this should just be a flat box. It should look more like a pallet than it should, but it can lift things and move them, right? Like that's what we wanted to do. We want to lift and move. We don't need to pick things up and carry them. Let's how this shit. And he said, I don't want to hear it. That's what I want it to look like. And they both quit and started their own company. So when I think about
Yeah.
like, will we come out the other side of this and will it make more sense? Yes, of course. But are we going to need people to do it? Yeah. It's like every James Cameron movie you ever saw, right? Like, sure, you can put the person in the robotic like exoskeleton with the big guns and send them out to shoot stuff, but there's still a guy in it, right? Like that's, I think, where we're headed with all this. No matter how automated you want to make it, no matter how, like in the end, we need people for when things break or fall or like that robot isn't going to pick something up itself. It's not going to pick itself. It's not going to, there's a lot else that happens in that world. That a robot
but if you watch, and Amazon's pretty secretive about video inside their warehouses for lots of reasons, right?
Right.
Not the least of which is human rights abuses, but
right.
In the warehouses where they've gone like full on automation, those robots are exactly as you described. They're flat.
Yeah.
They pick things up. They shift them.
And move stuff around. Yeah.
They move stuff around. I saw one video where it was moving stuff so fast that the boxes were almost falling off of the pallet.
That's crazy.
Like it was, so it was literally just speeding through. And all of these robots have, this kind of RFID, near field technology where they can detect each other, they can route around each other, they can learn, different things. Different robots actually start to have preferences for areas that they work. And it's some really fascinating stuff. So, the future is the future's already here.
Yeah.
Right. When we talk about AI and robotics and that, like, that's already here and very advanced warehouse logistics. And I think that the next, we started this conversation around transportation, and I think that area hasn't quite, gotten where the warehouse logistics are, around robotics and automation and all of that. But we're starting to see driverless, cars, driverless delivery, drone delivery. And it's still a little bit wonky, right? But if we're in that stage now, then in 20 years, we're going to see.
In 20 years, FedEx will have its own lane on highways, and FedEx and UPS and like any logistics company, they'll have their own lane on the highway, and their autonomous vehicles will use that lane to get in between places, between either the port to where it's going to
distribution center,
or from the airport to another distribution area, cross docks, wherever it's going, right? Like, I really feel like that's where we're headed. We're headed like this idea that last mile. I think the mile to me will still be driven by somebody for a while, but that other space in between, from it came on a ship or it came on a plane and it's going to a warehouse, that should actually be. I think it's going to be two things. I think you're going to build your warehouse closer to those facilities, and you're going to build a private road to get your stuff there, because then you really did what you meant to do. You are in control of everything until it gets onto that train or it gets onto that boat or it gets onto that. You're in charge of everything, and you're in charge of everything until it gets to your warehouse. At that point, it goes back out again to wherever it's going to go.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But you see, I mean, that whole distribution, like proximity to port, I mean, that's been happening for quite a long time, right?
Yeah.
We see that in all sorts of port locations, but that'll continue to advance. The reason you can't do it in Los Angeles, right, is that the real estate's too valuable around that area. So,
Long Beach, it's too valuable. Port of LA, down in Alameda, it's too valuable. All that stuff.
That's why the distribution centers in Ontario and Riverside.
Right. Yeah, they're trying. They're talking about building some out here, and we're like, no, Riverside can keep them. We'll keep building golf courses, I guess, out here in Coachella.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, that I guess that last piece of it, that the idea that, the future, like we're in the future, right? But the idea that it's just going to get faster and better and more efficient and more green and all of that is true. And I guess it's the idea. And I mean, we're living in a tariff regime right now. And like, I think about that, and I think about how disruptive that's been to global trade. But then I think the rest of the world adapted to it just fine. So if you think that there isn't software in this world that allows people to figure out what to ship, who to ship it to, where to originate it from, and how to get it there to pay the least amount in tariffs. Like we were already doing
Oh,
that. Like
yeah, that's been like 20 plus years now.
Yes, like we've been doing that a long time. So, like even in this world, because the soybean farmers are saying we can't lose soybeans again. You're taking away our market. Well, yeah, of course you are. You know who the biggest buyer of our soybeans were? China. Like they
China.
bought so much soybeans for us. But the minute we said there's 150% tariff, they started buying it from Brazil, and they'll never come back. They don't have to.
Yeah.
The software's telling them don't bother. We're too much of a risk now. So all of this stuff really, really matters. It matters in global economy. It matters in you getting your stuff on time. And it definitely matters now around the holidays because you want your Legos. And if they don't come to you in 3 days, you're screaming at FedEx asking where it is because there's nothing more important than Legos.
I picked up this whole supply chain and logistics thread again because it wasn't Legos for me. It's my plastic robots you see back there.
Right.
And during COVID, supply, plastic, these are all polystyrene plastic, right? Well, guess what? If you're not shipping plastics because you can't ship anything, then these don't get built. Okay, fine. Well, that disrupts plastic supply chain the world over. And then what else is impacted? Well, chip production, because there's plastics used in housings for chips. And then what else gets impacted? Oh, well, components for this. And it's this whole it's a domino effect. If you put the brakes on, this whole global economy really hard, it eventually finds a way to
Yes,
to find
it
new
will.
routes and sell and trade and all of that. But the impact is, prices change. And I'd have to look at my notes here, but the price to ship a shipping container post-COVID increased like 5 times, like five-fold.
63 cents.
Yeah, but if you think about it, there's a wholesale price and a retail price, right? And the wholesale price is Maersk pays pennies, but the retail price is quite expensive to ship a shipping container. So if you think about, because you could ship a lot of tons inside of a shipping container, and that whole reorganization of global trade, it's sort of sticky. Once it happens,
it's done.
It doesn't unstick itself very easily.
No, there'd have to be something else that happened in that country for it to unstick. Like that's the only way it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. For Brazil to stop selling soybeans to China, then something has to happen in Brazil.
Exactly.
The farm, gets hit by hurricanes, or they don't have hurricanes so much in Brazil.
Wildfires,
cyclones, wildfires,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Disease,
and,
whatever would take down that farmland is that's what it would take. And who knows, maybe Mexico figured it out and now we buy it from there. It really is like anybody who sits there and thinks, well, it's okay, it's only a couple of years, we'll get back to it. No. Once it's gone, it's gone. It doesn't go back. There's no reason for it to go back. It's cheaper that way. Like there's no reason. It doesn't matter if we gave it away. There would be no reason. We can't be trusted to keep doing it.
Yeah. So, plastic prices were jacked up for 5 years, during the whole pandemic thing. And now we're coming out for, years of impact to supply chains because of COVID.
And it doesn't matter how good logistics are. It's not what it's about at that point, right? We can get it there, but okay. So that's a wrap on our deep dive of history of logistics, from steam engines to drones. It's amazing to see how far we've come. And the future? Well, it looks like one giant tech-powered logistics dream. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Nostalgic Nerds. We'll be back next week with more geeky goodness. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review if you like this journey through time. Marc, thank you.
All right. Thank you. See you later.
Until
nerds.
Next time, you nerds, keep your deliveries on time and your cargo well organized. We'll see you again.